Africa is positioning itself for a share of major sporting events from next year after a difficult yet promising stint in 2021. Hello, welcome to your weekly sports program that brings you all the sporting news and reviews from an African perspective. We will highlight the thrill of victory while also showing you the agony of defeat. I'm Richard Nta, Nairobi. This is Sports Scene. Put on your seatbelts, buckle up, get ready. Let's get started. Here's what's coming up in the show. Rwanda looking forward to hosting the Cycling UCI Road World Championships in 2025. And triumphant South Africa focus on new season after clinching their World Rugby 7 series. Welcome in. Just like that, Sports Scene is on the air. We'll get to those other stories in just a moment, but how about we start with football? The South African Football Association remains confident of hosting the 2021 FIFA Club World Cup in December, despite reports linking the UAE with the elite tournament. The 2010 World Cup hosts have the infrastructure to put on a world-class event, but the global pandemic is proving to be the biggest obstacle. CGTN CS Duplessis has more.
The visit of the SAFA president to the Aisha Buhari Cup in Nigeria to discuss the possibility of hosting the FIFA Club World Cup certainly got tongues wagging across the Rainbow Nation and had many football fans dreaming of a time when they would be back at the stadiums watching their favorite clubs in action. And if the past is anything to go by, there should be no reason why the club competition can't be hosted on South African soil.
We've hosted World Cups, cricket, rugby, we've hosted AFCONs. We host big football games almost every week in this country. So in terms of our systems, that one is just a no-brainer. Even FIFA themselves, they've been here. They've got an office here.
When FIFA was here and Fatma Samora was here, she did specifically look at the Cape Town Stadium. She looked at FNB. She was also in Durban. So the stadium that you use, that you are raising now, she's got a good insight of what these stadiums offer, and they know these are world-class facilities.
There are many challenges facing the 2010 World Cup host nation. A big one is to convince the powers that be at FIFA that the spread of the coronavirus is under control. And with the South African government set to be in favor of hosting the event and a specific interest from the CAF president, Dr. Patrice Motsepe, there's no doubt everything possible will be done to overcome those challenges.
Firstly, as you may know, South Africa has been placed on the red list by the UK government, which is a difficulty because Chelsea is one of the teams that is supposed to participate. They are the European champions, and together with their fans, so that is a big hurdle. The second is that we do not have spectators in the stadium, and FIFA had indicated it is a matter that we must address.
It will be nice to host it, but I think there's a number of important hurdles which needs to be cleared before government are confident that we can do it, are satisfied that all the things have been done for us to host. CAF needs to come into play. Denny needs to do his willing and dealing, and we need to convince FIFA, and it's a long process. But yeah, I mean, we can do it.
South Africa's track record of hosting world-class events speaks for itself. But it's not the capacity or the capability that is in question. It is the various factors relating to the COVID-19 pandemic that are proving to be significant obstacles. That said, with declining cases and a gradual uptake in vaccinations, there's still a good chance that the tournament featuring the respective club champions will take place on South African soil, potentially with the final hosted at the stadium behind me. CS Duplessis, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Egypt is reportedly considering a joint bid to host the 2030 FIFA World Cup. Despite the bid not being official at this time, the country has made massive investments to build new stadia and Olympic cities. Sports officials have in recent past highlighted Egypt's capability to host the biggest sports events in the world, as CGTN's Adel El-Mahroui reports.
Since 2019, Egypt has hosted 79 world and regional sports events. The list includes the top global showpiece events in handball, gymnastics, pentathlon, karate, biking, and numerous continental competitions, including the 2019 AFCON. The country's passion to organize sports events is no secret, and this year it has expressed interest in hosting the 2030 FIFA World Cup.
Hosting big sports events is a priority for Egypt. The sports ministry and federations moved to host many international events, even under the COVID-19 pandemic. They organized the Handball World Cup. It was organized very well. Since President El-Sisi was elected, we've seen massive development in sports infrastructure.
Former EFA president and current FIFA and CAF executive board member Hani Abu hinted that Egypt is eyeing to host the World Cup. The announcement was made in August, just 2 months after the Egyptian sports minister Ashraf Sobhi said that the government is capable of hosting the world's biggest football event. No official announcement of the bid has been announced, yet Egypt has recently invested heavily to erect sports facilities across the country.
We built the Nasr City Olympic City, which is the biggest sports facility in Africa and the Middle East. It's equipped with a stadium that can accommodate 90,000 people. It's the biggest in the country, that surpasses the capacity of Cairo Stadium. That with the other development, that makes Egypt one of the best places to host sports events. Egypt is ready to organize any sports event, including the World Cup. It had the facilities and the capacity to do so.
Analysts, though, recommend that if Egypt is going to enter the World Cup bid with the expanded 48 teams competition, it should consider partnering up with another nation.
The number of stadiums we have that are capable of hosting World Cup matches are few. We need more. Maybe by 2030 we can build the necessary stadium. But this is a 48-team World Cup. It's a huge number of teams, the logistics of which are incredible. We need to continue investment in sports facilities. In addition, we must have a strong and well-studied proposal to submit to FIFA.
If Egypt decides to join the 2030 bidding, it will be competing against North African neighbors Morocco, who announced its 6th attempt to stage the tournament to FIFA. At least 2 European and a Latin American joint bids, including Spain and Portugal, Argentina, Uruguay, Chile and Paraguay, have already been made. Egypt is promoting its capabilities to host any sports event, no matter how big it is. However, the country has not taken any serious step toward the FIFA 2030 World Cup bid. Now, FIFA will begin the bidding process in the first half of 2022, which means that Egypt is lagging behind in preparing its file if it intends to apply. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
Kenya has hosted 4 international sporting events in 2021 where fans have largely been banned or few allowed into the venues due to the COVID-19 prevention protocols. The East African nation hosted the Europe Challenge Tour's Magical Kenya Open in March, the WRC Safari Rally in July, the World Under 20 in August, and the Kip Keino Classic in September.
2021 has been a good year to remember for Kenyan sports arena. The East African nation has been on the international radar after hosting several global events.
Very interesting because I didn't know that this could happen, and especially in this amidst the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, Kenya has been able to host about 6 international events. And when the government started by talking about the idea of making this country as a sports tourist destination, quite a number of us couldn't believe that.
In March, the country hosted the Magical Kenya Open Golf Tournament, which is now part of the prestigious European Tour. Up next came the Safari Rally from the 24th to the 27th of June. The event was making its return to the World Rally Championship calendar after a 19-year break. Fans turned out in their numbers to witness the event, with international and local drivers putting on a good show.
The Safari Rally coming back into the WRC calendar. Remember the last time it was about 19 years ago, and many of us didn't even expect the kind of organization that we saw in Naivasha, but I thought it was a world-class event because it attracted also the top drivers, people like Kasuta coming here, Oliver Neville coming for the Safari Rally, and the eventual winner, that tells you that well, they had the confidence that Kenya can host a world-class event. And if you saw the organization right from the beginning, how they put together the whole plan to the final execution of the WRC Safari Rally, I thought it was really fantastic. And I thought they also benefited from the experience of the CEO of the Safari Rally Limited, that is Phineas Kimathi, who was himself a rally driver.
The country then hosted the World Under-20 Athletics Championship in August that showcased the future in track and field. 958 athletes from 116 countries took part in 45 events, with the host Kenya topping the medal table. Then there was Africa's only World Athletics Gold Tour event, the Kipkeino Classic. Top athletes from around the world landed in Nairobi to provide high-octane action that was broadcast in all international territories.
Top athletes who are at the Olympics, they also came here. That is to tell you that they have that belief that there's something special about Kenya. And the organization, you have to give also the thanks to Athletics Kenya, because they put up also a good display. This is the time for which we can now start learning from what we've done. Athletics Kenya have pulled it off. The last edition, it was fantastic. This one was even much better.
With 3 of the 4 events hosted in 2021 assured next year, Kenya is now targeting to bid to host the 2025 World Athletics Championship. Sadiq Shaban, CGTN.
Hey, you're watching Sports Scene, and we're just getting warmed up. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Here's what's ahead. Rwanda looking forward to hosting the Cycling UCI Road World Championships in 2025. Welcome back to Sports Scene. Let's dig into this and talk a little more the capacity of Africa to host major competitions. And joining us is Effiong Inyong for more on this conversation. Mr. Inyong, welcome to Sports Scene. Well, the economic impact studies have shown hosting international sporting events do not generate the benefits that are often claimed. Why are African governments still bidding for them? Mr. Inyong?
Well, you see, when we talk about the benefits of that we get from hosting sporting competitions, we need to move away from the issues of money, the cents, the dollars that are made. There are a whole lot of other benefits that come with hosting competitions. One, it opens up the country, it opens up the continent. It also creates room for other businesses in the tourism sector, opens up businesses in the hospitality sector, and gives humanity an opportunity to bond. And friendships that cut across humanity, cut across races, gives us a better world to live in. So when we talk about benefits, it also gives room for other countries, for instance, on the African continent, to develop other infrastructure that they do not have the capacity to have developed. Now, I mean, we saw that happen for the first time in Nigeria when Nigeria was going to host the All Africa Games. It gave the country an opportunity to develop its infrastructure, building the first sports city at the time, way back in 1972. Now, not just sports. In talking about culture, the World Black and African Festival, that is FESTAC, that Nigeria hosted in 1977, FESTAC 77, gave the country an opportunity to develop housing and a whole lot of things that went with it. And just recently, Nigeria, for instance, hosted the 2009 Under-17 World Championship after hosting the World Youth Championship in 1999, giving room for stadia to be built across the Nigerian country and also develop interest of youth. I mean, taking the youth from other vices for them to be cultivated into what the world is acculturated to, are also some of the benefits that we derive from sports. Now, South Africa has shown greatly that it has capacity, having hosted the World Cup in 2010, the Rugby World Cup, And of course, other sectors in Africa, I mean, Egypt is a country that we look forward to. And of course, they talked about the Keep Kano Classic that just held in Kenya just recently. So there are a whole lot of benefits that come to the countries, that come to the people, that come to humanity, especially the youth of these countries when the countries host the events. So I think we should look beyond the figures in terms of monetary terms.
All right, Mr. F. Young, you're saying we should look beyond the dollars and the cents. Well, you have made some excellent points there, Mr. F. Young. But Africa has hosted all the major events apart from the Olympics Games. Can we look forward to seeing an African Olympics in the near future? What's your take on that?
Absolutely. I would favor it. I will vote for it because I know that if it's given to Africa to host, Africa can pull its resources together and ensure that it hosts a world-class event. Now, we've seen the World Cup being hosted across countries. Now, we saw the world for the first time. We saw Korea, Japan hosting the World Cup. So if we are to host the Olympic Games, there's no reason why we cannot host the Olympic Games across 2 or 3 countries. It takes just a flight to move from one venue to the other. And if different sports are designated to hold in different venues across the continent, definitely they will host it. Now, the weather can be a certain condition or a certain hindrance in certain parts of Africa, talking about those countries that fall within the tropics. And of course, we have games like ice hockey and other such sports that may not be possible in the tropical area. Of course, with the advancement in technology, all of this can be hosted. So developing infrastructure is something that can be done if we set our minds to it. I mean, Nigeria hosted the All Africa Games recently, and of course, we built facilities across the Federal Capital Territory here in Abuja. South Africa, with a host of all of its cities, Durban, Pretoria, Johannesburg, they have an array of facilities that are ready, that are in good stead to host any competition. So if the Olympic Games is given to Africa, I am certain and I am sure that Africa can host. All we need to do is set our minds to it and begin to look at the objectives in sport, objectives of getting humanity on one steed.
All right,
now, when humanity comes together and go for the spirit of Olympism, which we all know goes beyond just competition, it's doable, and I think we need to set our minds to it.
All right, Mr. F. Young, a sports consultant and sports administrator, thank you so much for lending your wisdom to this conversation. Thank you very much, much appreciated. Let's turn our attention now to Rwanda, where the country is gearing to stage her first major international sporting competition in 2025 after the country was confirmed as the host of the UCI Road World Championships on the 24th of September. Coming after the country successfully hosted a string of continental events, Rwanda is now looking forward to welcoming the world in 4 years' time. CGTN's Mohammed Abubakar reports.
Rwanda is preparing to host the 2025 UCI World Road Cycling Championships. This will make the cycling mad nation the first African country to host the flagship event that attracts over 5,000 cyclists from around the world.
It's a world-class event. For Rwandans, I think it's an honor to organize such events. And our Rwandan bike lovers, cycling lovers are very excited to receive such event, and they are very ready to make the event a success.
Cycling has become a staple sport in Rwanda over the last decade. The signature Tour de Rwanda has grown to be the biggest sporting event in the country, as well as Africa's premier cycling competition. Many in the East African nation feel hosting the World Championships has come as a reward for their passion to the sport.
To have UCI World Championship here in Rwanda, I think it's a reward of having an international cycling race like Tour de Rwanda. Cycling, here we say cycling is a passion to Rwanda, so I think they deserve to have those top level riders here. We have good roads, nice roads. Everything here is ready for UCI World Championship.
Rwanda's Cycling Federation president says the World Championships will position the country as a global sporting destination.
We want to make Rwanda a sports destination, a sport hub, so that the whole world can know that in Rwanda we can we can organize big events in sports. This comes from our top leaders, His Excellency the President of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, who is a sport lover, who want to make Rwanda really a sport destination, a tourist destination, so that the whole world could know that Rwanda is a nation of sports.
This year alone, Rwanda has hosted the inaugural Basketball Africa League, the FIBA Men's Afrobasket, and the recently concluded Africa Volleyball Championship, as it continues being a choice destination for big sporting events. Mohamed Abubakar, CGTN.
Well, stick around. The action continues on Sports Scene. Don't go away. Here's what's ahead. Triumphant South Africa return home as champions of the World 7 Series.
It's just taken me completely out of my depth, but at the same time it's exciting. It's new, it's different, it's a challenge.
It's really exciting.
Welcome back to Sports Scene. Thanks for sticking with us. South Africa's triumphant national rugby sevens team are back home following their impressive display in Canada, where the team captured both the Vancouver and Edmonton tournaments to be crowned World Series champions for the first time since 2018. CGTN's CS Duplessis has more.
The COVID-19 pandemic has wreaked havoc with the World 7 Series calendar. Tournaments have been cancelled, including the popular Cape Town Sevens, which has been called off for a second year running. Opportunities to compete have been limited, making this year's 7 Series title extra special for the team that last won the Global Crown 3 years ago.
Such a great feeling to be back on the field again. It's been 18 long months in lockdown with no rugby because of COVID. So really a big relief to be able to travel to the Olympic Games, and obviously, unfortunately, didn't go our way there, and we just wanted to rectify things in this new 2021 season, and that's what we went out there and we did. And again, so happy and excited to be back on the field again.
The displays from the Blitzbox in the Vancouver and Edmonton tournaments were clinical, and despite not featuring the heavyweights Fiji and New Zealand, coach Neil Powell was delighted with the way his new-look team performed against the dangerous teams like Kenya and Great Britain.
Although there was a lot of young guys, there was still enough senior players in that squad over those 2 weekends to guide those guys. You will always get that energy, but that energy is not always channeled in the right direction, and I think there was enough senior players to guide them and to channel their energy into the right areas. But again, I think just credit to the system, and it's always been one of the strengths of this team and of this system is that everybody is working towards one goal.
I wondered what Coach Neil was saying, like when I was watching the games, when I wasn't playing, what he always would say in a circle, and then I experienced it myself. So it was a great moment for me, just being there halftime and Coach Neil giving his speech, and yeah, he's been excellent. I learned a lot from him as a coach and as a person.
The next assignment for the Blitzboks will be back-to-back tournaments in Dubai in November, where the newly crowned World Series champions will be aiming to maintain the momentum from their triumphant trip to Canada. There will, however, be added motivation for the men in green and gold, as it is head coach Neil Powell's last season in charge. And although it may not be the squad's initial focus, the goal will be to finish off Powell's tenure in style with Commonwealth Games and World Cup gold. CS du Plessis, CGTN, Stellenbosch, South Africa.
And let's talk a bit of basketball. Nigeria's basketball team, the Tigers, have cemented their status as the dominant force in women's basketball on the continent after winning the concluded FIBA Women's Afro-Basket 2021 in Cameroon. The Tigers have now set their sights on the 2022 Basketball World Cup qualifiers, and CGTN's Deji Badamosi reports. Let's take a listen.
Despite their poor showing at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, where they didn't win a single game, Nigeria's The Tigers were still considered the hot favorite going into the FIBA Women's Afro-Basket. The Nigerian ladies have been the dominant force in women's basketball in Africa since 2015, when they won the first of their 3 titles in a row. Seeing of Mozambique, Cote d'Ivoire, Angola and Senegal to make it to the final, the girls left nothing to chance in beating Mali to retain their crown.
I like the fact that we were able to win it 3 times in a row, and it's a huge statement beyond the fact that everyone tipped us to be favorites. But what we are building and the legacy that is on course, it's what is most exciting for me as a follower of basketball on the continent, because you can just say it's Nigeria's time at the moment.
Before the era of the Tigers, Senegal had been the dominant force in women's basketball in Africa, winning the Afro-Basket a record 11 times. With 5 Afro-Basket titles now in the kitty, followers of the game think the Tigers could go on to match and even break the Senegalese record.
If we are able to administratively do what we need to do by keeping the core of the ladies together and having a coach who will continue to run with these ladies for as long as possible, I think creating some sort of mark on the world stage will be the next point of call for them.
The attention of the team will now turn to the FIBA Women's World Cup 2022 qualifying tournaments. The African champions will be up against tougher opponents like the United States, Australia, Canada, Puerto Rico and Brazil for a place in the Basketball World Cup in Sydney next September.
Let's not forget that in 2018 FIBA Women's World Cup, we became the first African nation to get through to the quarterfinal. So already we are beginning to create some storm at that level, just that we haven't been emphatic about it yet. Or one can say it was a one-hit wonder because it was the first time. So maybe perhaps going into 2022 in Australia, hopefully we qualify, then we can look at not just getting to the quarterfinals, but getting to the semifinals, and then we can take things from there. So it's not far-fetched at all, creating a mark at the world stage, because we have scratched the surface.
For now, the girls are savoring their victory at the Afro-Basket 2021. They're expected to regroup sometime later in the year or early 2022 to prepare for the FIBA World Cup qualifiers, which will take place in February. Deji Badimosi, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.
Well, I guess that'll do it for this edition of Sports Scene. Remember, you can send us your feedback to the contacts on the screen and follow us on digital media platforms. Thanks for watching. I'm Richard Nta. Keep it right here on CGTN.